Thanks for stopping by the Ready to Die channel for another episode of Monster Monday, where I take the opportunity to present a creature for Pathfinder 2nd Edition and delve into the design process for it. The stat block for this creature, and many more, can be found over on the Monster Monday blog, as well as the Twitter and Discord, which are linked below. You can also find a Pathfinder 1st Edition and D&D 5e conversion of the creature in these places as well. Today's toothy terrorizing topic is another icy interloper from the world of Monster Hunter, the Zamite, a miniature version of the shark frog Zamtrios. Which, despite what Pokemon has taught me, is not in fact 3 Zamites stuck together. Traditionally, when I build one of Monster Hunter's larger creatures that has smaller versions, I'll either include them in the stat block, as seen with the likes of the Jaggy and Great Jaggy, or talk about ways to adapt them from something else, like with the Macaw and Great Macaw. However, I built the Zamtrios fairly early on in my adaptation of beasts from the series, before I started the practice of including these lesser creatures. I'm taking the opportunity now to both rectify that and work on a smaller creature. Introduced in Monster Hunter 4 alongside the Zamtrios, Zamites are small amphibians that are heavily adapted to the Arctic environment. Typically, they're about as long as a palico is tall, with a pointed spike jutting from their nose and stubby limbs extending from their rotund bodies. Occasionally, larger ones with better proportioned bodies and a length that exceeds a human's height are encountered, and today's creature features both of these variances. In both cases, they lack any greater signs of intellect or innate spells, and are therefore built as simple animals, with their aquatic nature influencing the amphibious trait. Since the Zamtrios is probably the highest level monster that I built with a mini-me version, I gave them a bit of a bump, and designed them as level 3 creatures. Despite their diminutive dimensions, the Zamites are brawny little beasts that rely on their strength, leading to a moderate bonus with only a low bonus for their dexterity and constitution. As creatures that operate in the Arctic regions of the world they dwell in, it seemed right for them to have low light vision, while their shark traits influence the inclusion of scent, which is also part of the Zamtrios. Unsurprisingly, Zamites share several features with the Zamtrios while still maintaining their own niche. As for the Zamite's perception bonus, it only uses a moderate value. While these creatures are hunters, observations of them in the wild of Monster Hunter showed that they aren't particularly keen or aware. The only skill that is an integral part of the Zamite's kit is its athletics, which uses a moderate value, in part due to their adorable size leaving them with not quite enough oomph to make the most of their strength. Small and surprisingly squirrely shark frogs, Zamites use a high AC, which is also influenced by a later facet in their design. Their fortitude and reflex fall into a moderate value, and while I don't mean to keep dogging on them, they don't seem particularly willful, which leads to a low but not terrible will save. The Zamite's 50 hit points falls in between moderate and high, which might seem like a bit much considering it also has a high AC, but that particular value is likely to change during the course of the battle. These hit points also account for the Zamite's weakness to fire, one of the most common energy damage types, though they do also have an immunity to cold, since they are Arctic creatures. While it isn't something I have specifically observed in Monster Hunter, Zamites are classified as amphibians and have webbed feet. These factors contributed to the inclusion of a swim speed for them. On the offensive side of things, Zamites have 2 strikes, both of which utilize a moderate attack bonus. Their jaws deal moderate damage but carry the deadly trait, influenced by the Zamtrios' jaws having the same trait, which in turn is based on the terrifying teeth of sharks. However, the Zamite's bite also comes with Attach, an ability seen on Bloodseekers, Pickled Punks, and possibly a few other creatures. It is described as functioning similar to Grab, but doesn't cost an action to trigger. Additionally, the Zamite simply moves along with a creature, hanging from it as it goes. The jagged teeth of the Zamite means that ripping it away causes some bleed damage, but this effect otherwise just latches the Zamite to the target. To account for the range, relative safety, and unique damage type, the Zamite's freezing spit deals low damage. It also comes with a secondary effect. In-game, a Zamite spit can inflict Ice Blight, which usually causes stamina to be consumed faster, wearing hunters out. As with many of the effects that afflict stamina in these sorts of games, I had the Zamite's Deep Chill inflict the fatigued condition for a round, but only on a failed save against a moderate DC, since there is no cooldown or lesser degree of effect on it. A fairly simple creature, the Zamite only has 2 more abilities to discuss. First up is Drain Blood, which is also found on the Bloodseeker with similar but slightly different effects. This deals a meager amount of damage, grants the Zamite equally meager temporary hit points, and then, most importantly, causes the Zamite to grow. This is based off of their growth in Monster Hunter after draining from a creature, which happens a bit more slowly and allows hunters to get some hits in. For the sake of simplicity, This happens immediately, causing the Zamite to become medium, increase its jaw's damage, and swap its attach with grab. However, this also makes it clumsy 1, which means that high AC is suddenly moderate, and unless it was attached to a larger greater creature, it loses its attachment since it can only be attached to creatures larger than it. The inclusion of clumsy is based off of several effects that alter a creature as well as the enlarged spell. Notably, some undead have an ability to create new undead. These fresh undead often suffer detrimental effects until their sire is slain, but for the Zamite, it's simply a matter of growing too fast and not being used to this new size. If they can survive and get used to this new body, they get to adjust, losing the clumsy condition and instead permanently becoming medium elite Zamites. These Zamites are the ones that might someday grow into a full-blown Zamtrios. I wanted to give the grown Zamite something unique to them to help further differentiate them from their smaller forms, and to also ensure that they aren't losing too many abilities with this change. To achieve this, I added Gnaw. While this name is descriptive in its effect, it is also a small reference to one of the few, if not only, named Sharkticons in Transformers. Functionally, it's similar to the Constrict ability, often seen on snakes, giving it moderate damage on a high DC, with a small amount of persistent bleed. This ability is a handy one that doesn't rely on or affect the Zamite's map, making it a solid third action. Since I built the Zamtrios before I started designing gear for Monster Hunter creatures, I wanted to include some gear for it now. And I tried to do that. I really did. But the item I ended up with is 100% a Zamite item. The Frostbite name is certainly cheesy, but that's exactly why I'm a fan of it. I built this as an item both around the Zamite's level, and then another closer to the level of the Zamtrios. Its grapple trait and bleed effect are inspired by the Zamite's attach, drain blood, and gnaw abilities, while its activated effect is general shark stuff, but also calls to mind one of my favorite shows from my childhood, Street Sharks. A friend suggested switching out this effect for a grab ability, but I wanted to do something a little more unique, and so I sought to expand on the bleed concept of it. The increase of damage die is similar to features such as Deific Weapon or Deadly Simplicity, but the idea of it targeting bleed is new and fresh. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, but I always love hearing your thoughts on it. We have come to the end of our discussion on the Zamite. This crafty cryo critter creeps and crashes into careless creatures, cruelly crunching and munching upon them. In their base state, Zamites are intended to be used in groups, and could even serve as minions for a Zamtrios in encounters for parties of about level 6 or 7. An enlarged Zamite could also work as a solid single-level threat for lower-leveled parties, where they work best to herald the presence of a Zamtrios within the region. You can check out the Monster Monday blog and Twitter for the stat blocks, or hop on the Discord to join the monster making and general tabletop discussions. These posts also include a Pathfinder 1st Edition version of the monster, along with a D&D 5e conversion. Thanks for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.